So I went to go see Krampus, and to be perfectly honest, I'm a little confused, and not just because of the advertising campaign that's really trying to sell the film as like a solid horror movie, when really it's more of a comedy horror. The closest thing I can think of to compare it to is Gremlins, really. But then on top of that, it's actually the most unabashedly Christmas movie I've seen out of a big release in years. And I was not expecting that. Not at all. Not out of a comedy horror based about the legend of Krampus. Hey, but you know, pleasant surprises. So if you're not familiar with the whole Krampus thing that's seen a surge in popularity here in the US of late, it's basically an Austro-Bavarian folklore about this sort of demonic spirit that's the anti-Saint Nicholas, right? It goes around and just punishes children on the Feast of St. Nicholas, which is December 6th, if they've been bad that year, as opposed to, you know, bringing treats on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. Now, having said that, ignore the majority of it, because it doesn't really pertain to the film at all, but it's a neat little bit of background. Now, as far as the film itself goes, you have a very stereotypically film liberal family. You know, the parents are maybe going through a rough patch, the two kids don't get along like they used to. Pretty standard film fare. And they have a really conservative, Bible-thumping, gun-toting group of in-laws that come for Christmas, and hijinks ensue, right? Now, the liberal family's kid still believes, well, their son, their younger son, still believes in Santa, mostly. That's reinforced by their German-speaking grandmother. And he writes a letter to Santa Claus. His cousins give him a hard time about it, so he tears it up and throws it out the window, and that summons Krampus to come and start killing everyone with his group of Christmas-themed demonic toys and such. Weird demon gingerbread men and jack-in-the-boxes, and it's really good, solid, fun special effects, to be honest. But yeah, that's the general outline of the film. Now, when I said this was the most Christmassy movie I'd seen in a long time, I really wasn't kidding. I mean, pretty much everything that you would expect to happen in a Christmas movie, given the setup of those two families, happens. There's a couple exceptions, but for the most part, it's all there. Now, on the one hand, that's actually nice. It's something that you don't see a lot of, and it's very in the spirit of the season, and it's nice. It hits a nostalgic part in me. On the other hand, it's almost a little bit to the film's detriment, because, yeah, sure, while it's all there, it relies too much on the tropes and stereotypes of the Christmas movie, right? And so it doesn't do a lot to develop the characters beyond that at all. It's just sort of like, hey, here's the character, you know what their arc is going to be, enjoy. And to be fair, for the most part, I did enjoy, but it's just, every once in a while, it'd be nice to see a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. Even if you discount the whole holiday nostalgia aspect of the film, it's still a moderately entertaining comedy horror. Not all the jokes work, sure, and the conservative family is the butt of the majority of the jokes. But for the most part, it's still entertaining, especially if you can laugh at yourself and you're the conservative sort of side of things. The horror aspect is nice and solid. It's not like a traditional slasher where they slowly pick people off over the course of the film. But the special effects, it's mostly practical effects, and they look really good. They're provided by Weta Workshop. Really nice and creepy. Like over the course of the film, they have these really fantastically creepy looking snowmen that sort of slowly creep closer to the house every time they look out the window. It's good. It's mostly focusing on the atmosphere as opposed to jump scares or like big reveals. But when they're there, they're really there, and they look really cool. So yeah, pretty solid comedy horror. Not as good as, say, the thing that I would really compare it against for the most part, which is Gremlins, but pretty passable, pretty acceptable. Now, and I know this may come as a shock given what I've said before this, but I enjoyed Krampus quite a bit. It's not perfect, no movie is, but it is solidly fun and entertaining. If you like movies like Gremlins, you should enjoy this. It's a solid entrant into the whole Christmas-themed horror film genre, right? It's not going to dethrone anyone's favorites on a list of those movies, but it should earn a spot in that sort of rotation of films. Now, if you don't like those sort of movies, this is not going to win anyone over, but it has really solid acting, great special effects, some good chuckles in there. It's fun. Now, if you've seen it, let me know what you thought, and until next time, folks, later.